Hey everyone, it's Heather Nichols and welcome to another Make It Monday. Today we're going to create a card that involves stamping with pigment inks and dye inks to create this beautiful texture on our stamped images that you can see here. You may have seen this technique out and about called velveteen stamping. So let's get started. I am going to use just a white, the Fresh Snow pigment ink, and I'm going to stamp that right onto our Stamper Select white cardstock. You're going to want to use the same color ink as the cardstock base that you're putting your main stamped image on. Now, pigment ink is a paintier, wetter ink. It sits on the top of your cardstock and is opaque, and it takes a little bit longer to dry than like a dye-based ink, which is probably the majority of the inks that you have. And I'm doing it in white, and I thought we would also try this in the Vintage Cream pigment ink as well. So that's what I'm doing now as I'm stamping another flourish. This is the Fancy Flourishes set, by the way, and I'm filling up the background of this cardstock with different flourishes. So you can see the images on the cardstock. They're really subtle, but they're there. They show up maybe a little bit more on the cream cardstock than the white. And we're going to let this dry, just kind of walk away from it and then come back later. Once it's dry, we're going to stamp our other images on top of it with a dye-based ink. Dye-based ink is more of a water-based ink, and so it more goes into the paper than sits on top, like the pigment ink sits on top. So the dye base is going to go into the cardstock where it touches cardstock, but it's going to sit on top of the pigment ink more, and that's going to give it the different appearance that shows up. So I'm going to stamp this flower in Scarlet Jewel. And then I'm adding the rose image in a pure poppy. And then I'm also going to start adding leaves in a ripe avocado. And you can already see in the flowers the different textures and coming through from the Fancy Flourishes set on the little roses right there. So you can just fill in the leaf designs, and there's a closer look. As the image dries, the image on the bottom kind of pops through a little bit more. It's pretty cool. The cream is definitely more subtle than the white. It's still there and you can still see it, but it's a little bit more muted than the actual white. That one actually kind of pops just a little bit more. I'm adding some buttons here just underneath this sentiment. The sentiment is Just Because is from the Giga Guideline set. There's a lot of beautiful classic sentiments in there. And then I am putting the image piece onto the card base, which is a craft card base, with some dimensional foam squares to finish off my card. I also use the corner chomper there to round corners as well. And that is going to finish off my card for this project. And then it's going to be your turn to experiment with stamping with pigment inks and then stamp over the top of them with dye-based inks and create some beautiful designs and textures. You can go to Nicole's blog and get all the details on posting your projects and the contest. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining me for this Make It Monday. This is Heather Nichols, and I hope you have a great week.